Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in to You Have a Cool Job, episode number 37. From Peterson's, I'm Taylor Sienkiewicz, and you're listening to a podcast highlighting those who took their profession in a unique direction and what they did to get there. On this week's episode of You Have a Cool Job, we focus on a person whose career centers around social goals rather than a specific industry. Coltrane Stansbury works to promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace, as well as community engagement on a local to national level. Coltrane earned his Master's of Public Policy at Rutgers University Bloustein School of Planning and Public Policy. He then began his work in policy and explained how this was a perfect jumping-off point for his career.
Yeah, so, my career is interesting. I have a background in policy, and in many ways, it informs the work that I do and what I'm passionate about. But I see my education as sort of arming me for the things that I am passionate about, that I enjoy doing. I have a formal education in policy analysis, but really what it did, my time spent at Rutgers was kind of preparing me for a type of analytical thinking around problems and being a good problem solver. And but I was already very deeply involved in the things that I really love to do, which are addressing issues of diversity and inclusion in communities, linking communities to greater resources, partnering across different sectors to support residents and small businesses, initiatives that engage people around how to build corporate and community culture. And my background in policy really has helped me understand that from an aggregate perspective, and a look at what the data tells us around where the problems really are. And so although policy is not my passion, it's given me some of the tools to do my work better.
Okay. So these passions that you do have, all of these interests that you're talking about, how have you been able to incorporate them into your work then?
Yeah, where I've always started with is, work, as I consider, or let's just call it, my career, is I'd like to think of it as really me every day being involved and to help give back to people in ways that I've been given to and invested into in life. And so my work is an extension of my story. It hasn't been hard for me to pick what to do in life and where to go to do it. I grew up as a scholarship kid, in Trenton, New Jersey. Trenton is New Jersey's capital, was also one of New Jersey's poorest communities. And I grew up in the backdrop of New Jersey politics, in it being the capital. And my mother and father came to Trenton as public servants. My father was a school teacher in the public school system. My mother is a policy consultant. And so at our dining room table or on a Saturday, we were either volunteering in the community. My mother was adopting families to help empower. My dad was teaching kids during the day and helping be a surrogate father to them in afternoons and evenings and weekends. And so all we knew was this lifestyle of commitment, so that as now a grown-up, armed with an education, I could never think to be too far away from people and the idea of being a part of their empowerment process and what it's like to take on and tackle some of the larger systemic issues, knowing that at the root of them are people concerned about their own livelihoods and the issues surrounding their ability to participate in American democracy. So whether that's been me working in nonprofit or government or where I work now in corporate America, I'm solution-oriented around communities.
Coltrane touched on the various fields he has been engaged in throughout his career. I asked Coltrane how these experiences have tied together to help him achieve his goals, and how he's kept these goals in the forefront of his mind.
I laminated a card that I have in my wallet. I worked for, at the time, Mayor Cory Booker, now Senator Booker, and running for president. But when we worked in Newark together, and I was with him in his first term, he told us he had in his wallet laminated his personal mission statement that he carried around with it. And that inspired me to create my own personal mission statement that I have laminated in my wallet, is to help see poverty eliminated and eradicated in my lifetime. And so I don't really pick jobs as much as I look to do the thing that helps me achieve or get closer to achieving that personal mission statement. And working with people that I consider to be my coalition that I work with and have worked with, of advisors, mentors, subject matter experts, employers and bosses, co-workers and colleagues, that I can see every day I'm working invisibly and intangibly beyond walls to constantly create partnerships that matter to that mission. So where I sit every day, it might change every 2 years, or it might change in 5 years. Not because I'm dissatisfied, but I'm uncomfortable, and I'm ready to do the next challenge that helps me get closer to eliminating and eradicating poverty in my lifetime.
I asked Coltrane where he is at in his career now, as he has turned his attention to corporate America.
My job really is from this sort of platform, working at PSEG, giving these tools and resources to help manage their volunteer sort of push for employees. So I help mobilize our volunteer base here in New Jersey, where we try to reach all of our major communities, not only in our market, but the whole state, as well as Long Island, and helping mobilize those volunteers in such nonprofit causes, everything from animal shelters to soup kitchens to LGBTQ community work and education. I also helped create this corporate culture, or help propagate a corporate culture that's inclusive of all groups, by ethnicity and gender, but also veterans and sexual orientation and disability, and making sure that as a company we encourage employees who are currently here, and we encourage job seekers to be a part of our push toward a more diverse community.
Okay, that's great. Coltrane, I want to back you up a little bit. So when you were going through college, is this what you imagine you would be doing, is working in these different industries to help promote diversity?
Absolutely. While I was in graduate school, I was actually working for my mother, who I mentioned earlier is a policy consultant in New Jersey for 30 years. I actually never knew her to work for anyone. She was always a consultant. And what that meant when we were working together and actually growing up, watching her in this field, being one of the few women actually working in policy and around community solutions, and doing it as a small business enterprise and a women-owned business enterprise, what it meant for me was so impactful to be this connector. And so while I was in school, I was working on policy projects and learning the policy process during the day, in school, and during the afternoons and evenings, working in this very independent, small think tank consulting firm in Trenton, helping to look at all these systemic issues in corporations and in government agencies throughout the Eastern Seaboard. And it was an incredible opportunity to work and go to school and put some of my theories in school to practice at work. And so I would encourage anyone in graduate school to, and I respect what people have to do to get through school in terms of work, but try to do something that's really connected to what you're going to school for, especially graduate school. I mean, all of us waited tables and delivered pizzas, in undergrad, but graduate school is a unique opportunity to really link your work or the practicums or the internships that you're in or fellowships directly to what you're studying.
We'll get back to Coltrane's story right after this. Are you searching for the right college, grad school, or trade school to fit your needs? Or are you studying for those entrance exams you need a good score on? Peterson's has you covered. With advanced college and scholarship search functions, test prep for everything from the SAT to the MCAT to the firefighter exams, and tons of free resources on our blog, Peterson's helps you find, get in, and pay for school, plus much more. Visit petersons.com today. And now, back to the show. Coltrane is obviously passionate about the work that he does and the social equality he strives for. So I asked Coltrane to share the most satisfying moments of his career.
Yeah, wow. I mean, there are tons of them, but if I could pick one, it would be, while I was at Johnson & Johnson, I worked for and with Johnson & Johnson for about 7 years before coming to PSEG. There was a program that the then Chief Diversity Officer, Anthony Carter's mentor of mine, started, and he reached out to us as a startup organization, contract with Johnson & Johnson to start a childhood obesity initiative in classrooms throughout America that would help combat childhood obesity by getting kids up and moving in their classrooms for 10 minutes every day to exercising while immersed in a digital experience through smart boards or through other projection that gave them access to educational content while they're moving. So it's helping to get exercise, focus and attention directly related to curriculum. And in a winter in 2011, I was asked in this little startup organization with this little contract with Johnson & Johnson to get 1,000 classrooms up and running in Houston, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Newark, New Jersey. And in 8 weeks, I held hands with policymakers, with educators and teachers, with students and their parents, and started this program that created this wildfire of movement of literally students all throughout urban America and at-risk diverse communities up and moving in classrooms and taking charge of their own health and education. Out of that, we were in special needs classrooms. We were in districts in the North, in Latina communities, African American communities, working with undocumented families in some of the most hard to reach and at-risk places in education. And by 5 years later, our students, we reached over 800,000 students, burning over 500 million calories. We partnered with Microsoft Health in order to get free access to the cloud, to digitally stream this content into our classrooms faster and more efficiently. We partnered with a group called Calorie Cloud out in California and got our kids the calories that they were burning in classrooms. We said, wow, let's get those calories donated in the form of food packages to kids in sub-Saharan Africa. So in 2016 alone, our students in our urban districts of Houston, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Newark, and then we added New York City, burned enough calories to save 500 lives in South Sudan. And so this is something I'm most proud of. I think getting the thank you cards from thousands of students over those years, reading those cards and feeling their empowerment and what this means to educate a child before they leave middle school and arm them with the tools to take charge of their own education, health, and the use of technology to do it, I think was incredible. And we'll see the impact of that for years to come.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. Coltrane, what did it feel like for you personally and as a professional to be able to see these tangible effects of getting these cards and seeing how many calories these kids were burning and what they were learning?
Well, I think the incredible thing about it is, empowerment is about seeing yourself in the middle of a ladder or a wheel where you're being helped, but you're given the tools and the inspiration and the passion to help someone else. So you're never at the bottom and you're never at the top. That's really the definition of how we should see ourselves in our community ecosystem. And so I was so delighted to be able to help empower young people to see themselves during the calorie challenge component as, yes, we're doing this program to benefit ourselves, but we see people in another community somewhere across the Atlantic as needing our help, not 20 years from now when we get degrees and have experience and tangible wealth, but right now at age 7 and 9 and 13, I have the ability to connect with and positively impact someone through my own leadership and intention. I think that's powerful. And I think that's something that we should, especially in America, empower more youth to feel like they can give back, they can contribute, they can empower and inspire others as they're being empowered and inspired.
Diversity and inclusion is a hot topic today, inspiring many young people to get involved. I asked Coltrane for his advice to up-and-coming professionals on making an impact personally and professionally.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Franklin Rames, who was head of the President's Office of Management and Budget and Fannie Mae years ago under in the Clinton administration, they asked him how, what was the key to his success? And he said, you seem lucky in your career. And he said, well, I define luck, if there's such a word, as, when preparation meets opportunity. And, so some of this is the formula of working really hard to elevate your passions through all of the different small and large platforms that you have that give rise to your voice and your experience. But remember, in those moments, we're not just armed with our passion, but really prepared to not just say what we want to do and what we're excited about, but to actually do something about it and engage other people in the conversation of how they can get involved. That's where preparation's opportunity. One of those for me, when I got to Johnson & Johnson and in conversation with one of the VPs in HR, started talking about my passion. It led me to, when running this Gateway to Healthy Communities initiative that I talked about, give a small presentation in front of the CEO and chairman and his direct reports. Well, that VP in HR, in just a 5-minute walk over to that presentation, started talking to him about this passion, not just about the project, but my story and my interest in life and helping young people. That led to him nominating me to do a TEDx talk at Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson had then and still does have the largest TEDx community in corporate America. And that one 8-minute, 9-minute TED talk that I gave in 2014 in February in Philadelphia led me to a wealth of opportunities to not just do more speeches and conversations, because I did get those opportunities to inspire interns and co-ops coming into the company, to external conversations around leadership and community. But more importantly, it allowed me to see my career as this opportunity to leverage all that attention to bring more awareness of the issues, pull other people and other organizations into this incredible process of service, and then be given the opportunities of a lifetime in terms of career advancement that give me more rise to my voice, more rise to access to partnerships, more ability to do this work at a leadership level.
Coltrane's TED Talk is linked in the show notes. Of course, exposure like this led to plenty of opportunities for Coltrane. He talked about his motivation to mobilize attention like this, much of which has to do with mobilizing people. Coltrane shares what he sees as the future in the next generation.
This is an interesting time in history with the rise of millennials as young leaders, and every generation has its young leaders that are grappling with their contribution. What I see that young people possess now more than ever is this incredible ability to not compromise values as they look at career and service, and what it is to hold institutions accountable in one way for their involvement and connection and commitment to helping to empower communities and people, but also to say what's not built and what's not created, we'll figure it out and create it ourselves. I love the energy around young entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking and enterprise. And I think in many ways, this is the first generation that can say we are being inspired by our young people of all stages and phases of life to be more millennial. And that millennial is a type of mind state and an energy and a lens that we bring to the work and the passion that we do every day. And I'm excited to every day be able to tap my inner millennial to do this work at this stage of my life and career.
Coltrane continuously works towards his goal of eradicating poverty and bases each career move on this goal. We hope you're inspired by Coltrane's story to find your personal mission too. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.